Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.
Why don't you write when you don't need money, honey? That would certainly make a hit.
Welcome to Word Docs. I'm Dr. Amy Matthews, and I'm joined as usual by Dr. Sean Williams and Dr. Vickery Howe. And we're joined today by one of our lovely colleagues who we've spoken about a lot on this show, but have never quite managed to get in, and that's Dr. Lisa Bennett. Welcome, Lisa.
Hello, Lisa.
Hello. Hi.
So today we're doing a special episode because my three guests, who are my colleagues, and I get to hear about their projects when I go to work and get really excited about what they're working on, all have books out this month.
Hooray!
So we thought since we're in COVID lockdown and we can't actually pop the champagne or open the Moscato, that we would get together here and just celebrate their work and talk about it and give you the details to go and buy their work so you can send it to everyone you know so they can enjoy lockdown. Although I have to say all of them write quite disturbing stories. So how much you'll enjoy the lockdown is up to how much you like being unsettled. So we're going to start off, we might just do the rounds with everyone's books and hear about them first and do our usual trick of talking over each other and getting distracted and going off on tangents. So I'm going to start with the project we've heard the most about on this show, which is Alex's play Watchlist, which is finally being published and is out on the 17th of this month, which is this week. Yay!
Yay! It was supposed to be the 4th of April, but then we kind of hesitated and I wasn't sure. But now it's actually happening.
Tell us about your hesitation. Come on, tell us about the project. Why is it such a difficult time to release this play?
For good reason. I mean, first of all, it's a play, and plays are not the done thing during a pandemic, as it turns out. So there was that. But it's also a play, and I actually am spoiling the ending, but I've done this many times now, so there's no way around this. It is a play that deals with the release of a zoonotic pathogen that spreads around the world. So, I have talked about it before in this podcast, but just briefly, it was written it was completed about late July 2019. And then the fires happened, which was sort of referenced in the play, that we're going to face some serious ecological disasters, including fires. So that happened, and that was the first little bit of a worry.
First sign that he was Nostradamus, really.
I was going to say, Alex, is this all your fault? Did you bring this onto the world?
God. It is.
There's another one, Lisa. What was in your short story that's come true as well? There was something else.
This one I feel awful about all of it. I mean, not that I caused it, but the other one was a passing reference to the corpses of the goodies. And one of the goodies passed away yesterday. And I loved Tim Brooke Taylor. I thought he was brilliant. He had this whole kind of crazy Uber Tory thing going on, and he'd pretend he was a teapot, and he was hilarious. And we used to watch him I used to watch him at 5 o'clock every afternoon.
And you killed him.
And now I've killed him.
Well, that's it. Alex, is your power only for evil?
Apparently.
Have you written anything good that's come true?
Well, I don't think that my powers will work for the good.
He doesn't write things that are good. He only writes evil, horrible things.
The next person to keep an eye out for is Queen Elizabeth II.
Well,
probably more likely Prince Philip. Since Alex has a queen fetish, he's more likely to off Prince Philip.
So
evil laughter.
So with this play, it was this gradual thing of, it's far-fetched, it's far-fetched, it's far-fetched. Oh, that's starting to seem... And when Corona first happened, it was just in the background of news reports. And I was like, that seems like an interesting, potentially disturbing parallel. And then it just it became what it's now become. And I was stunned.
So, but you did release the play. So you toyed with not doing it at all, didn't you?
I toyed with not doing it all because I did not want to be seen as exploitative. You know, I think it's one thing to say something was written and then it came true. That's kind of okay, but a lot of people don't realise what the timeline is in terms of final draft going in, publication, cover art, editing, the whole bit. So I was concerned that it would read to a lot of people that I just jumped on a horrendous bandwagon. And for that reason, I was willing to just go, oh, kill it, you know, pull the plug.
And is it a comedy?
It's a comedy. It's... But it's not funny anymore.
Extraordinarily in bad taste. Although maybe it's what we need. It's probably exactly what we need.
A friend of mine, playwright Emily Steele, she read it the other day and she went, it's very, very funny, then it's very, very dark. And so it does have this sort of sudden gear shift. But the impetus for writing it was, I don't know if any of you remember, but there was a pamphlet by the Coalition that was either released or I suspect leaked 5 or more years ago.
So those of you not from Australia, he means
yes.
our Conservative
From
Liberal
a coalition.
Party and
they released
Party.
a pamphlet for, I think it was leaked, but it was a pamphlet saying, you know, watch out in case your kid becomes a terrorist. But they didn't want to use white supremacist terrorism. They didn't want to use Islamic terrorism. So the example they use is this fairly benign environmentalist called Karen. And it's a really, really funny pamphlet. It's very funny.
Karen.
Yeah, and so...
Oh, no, and even
Karen's not doing anything wrong.
It's perfect.
Karen went to a party she went to a music festival, I think, and met some environmentalists and she signed a few petitions. Like, if Karen was my kid, I wouldn't be worried about Karen. So I became interested in the idea that, you know, could a really gormless...
Karen.
It wasn't Karen. It's a guy called Basil in the play. I don't know why he's called Basil, but a character called... I think I was worried that they would realise I was talking about the pamphlet if I made it Karen. But
and now they will, because you're talking about it.
Now they'll know. But Basil's this just lovely guy in his early 20s. He's a bit gormless. He's a bit, you know, he's not quite sure of who he wants to be or what he wants to do. But he falls in love. I mean, it's largely a love story as well. He falls in love with Delia, this character who is quite a strong far-left environmentalist. And poor Basil ends up on the watch list just by association, by trying to impress her. And that's really what the first act is about. And the second act is unravelling a lot of it and asking a lot of questions about who is Delia really, what's she really up to, is she a darker character than she appears to be. So it's this kind of weird rom-com love story. You can probably hear an ambulance going past. That's my house.
It's the police coming for you.
They're coming to get you now.
I know I'm talking about the watch list. I talked about Karen. It's all over. Yeah, so it's a kind of, it's a fun love story that's a little bit political that ultimately goes to a kind of dark space. And so I found myself in this weird position where it's all in increments started to come true. When I was talking to biologists about a disease or a virus that could pass from animals to people, they said, yeah, you know, SARS, there are viruses that have done this, but it's very unlikely that a serious one's going to happen, you know. And then fast forward, a couple of months, and here we are.
Do you want to call him up and say, well done, Tony? Good call. So since you won't be putting this play on live, obviously,
yes.
Any plans to put it on as a radio play?
A lot of theatre companies now are doing the radio play thing. I think that's the way I want to go with it. I don't think I'll do it as a full play, though. I'm thinking of splitting it into little half-hour or even 20-minute eps, similar to this podcast.
We could put it on for you, Alex. We could just do
special episodes.
Yeah, be great.
Sean would be a good Basil. I can kind of imagine it.
I haven't read the script. I'm not sure how to react to that.
And Alex can play Delia.
I can be... Well, I mean, the dramaturg...
That means you're the virus, ain't you?
He basically said, Delia is you, isn't she? And I went, yeah, I think Delia is actually me. I do this a lot. I do have a habit of disguising myself as women in plays. It's a weird thing because I don't know why. I cannot explain that, really.
It's the goodies.
The goodies?
The goodies are the source of all your cross-dressing fantasies.
Tim's always the girl.
I think it's because people don't then assume that it's you, so you can get away with more, I think. I think that's probably the reason.
So where can people get a copy of the play now?
The best place is actually the Currency website, Currency Press.
Which we put a link up on our socials so people can find it.
I mean, there's only really a couple of theatrical publishers in this country, and Currency is one of, if not the biggest. But it's a weird time for them because, it's not a time necessarily for theatre right now. So what I did with the publication is I did a kind of sort of an essay, a fun essay to contextualise a lot of it. Mark Parnell from the Greens Party wrote a piece on it. Caleb Lewis, who was the dramaturg, he wrote, I think, the best piece on it because he said all of the things that I was bashful about saying. Caleb really went out there and said, yeah, pay attention to this story because, hey, it seems to now be coming true. So it's worth getting because it's not, play scripts are different to novels. They're almost a blueprint for something rather than a complete work in themselves. But what's great about this publication is there's all this extra stuff around the play and why it was written and how it fits into society and the events we're living through right now. So please buy it or listen to it. I accept hate mail too because I'm sure that's going to happen.
Because it's all his fault. So we're going to move on to our special guest now because Lisa Hannett has her, is this your fourth collection?
Fourth collection. Yeah, it's the fourth.
And it's called Songs for Dark Seasons, and it's out on the 27th. So Sean and Lisa are actually book babies. They've both got books out on the same weekend.
Yay!
So let's hear about this collection, Lisa.
Well, if you like, I can read the back jacket copy.
Oh, yes,
Look at
please.
me, prepared. So this is what it says, or I imagine it's going to say. I haven't seen the advanced reading copy yet. I'm dying to get my hands on it. But anyhow, with a twang in its heart and a song for luck on its tongue, Songs for Dark Seasons takes readers back to the lonesome dream counties introduced in the World Fantasy Award-nominated collection, Bluegrass Symphony. Trailer parks and graves are only temporary homes for souls in these tales, where gods dwell in churches and parking lot groves. Friday night football stars mingle with sirens. Hunters' wives help their kids not to shoot but to fly. Chanticleers spar their way into local government, and rash afflicted men take dryads for lovers. In backwater towns, some witches have the know-how to pin pageant queens pretty, while others relieve girls of highfalutin aspirations. Local crow boys and bloodthirsty ursines are the best miners around. In these 13 stories, forests are imbued with the deepest, saddest strains of country music, cornfield horizons stretch as long as a lone fiddle's wail, and distant hills make mandolin promises, sweet and catchy and short-lived. So that's what it says on the back.
Oh,
That sounds amazing.
Oh, yay!
So this is your return to the world you created with Bluegrass Symphony. So how many years later are you going back, and have you been writing them the whole time, or did you decide to go back this year?
I have been writing these for a couple of years. So Bluegrass Symphony was unique in that it was all original material apart from one story. So for that book, I just happened to luck out and get a publisher who was willing to take an unknown author with unpublished stories and just publish a whole book of it, which was pure luck. So this time it's a kind of half and half are already published and half original material. So I've been writing the previously published stuff. Some of it, I think the oldest story is 2013. So there are some stories that have appeared elsewhere. And then 6 stories and a novella that are original to the collection. So just over half of the material is new. So I've been working on it a long time. Once I finished Bluegrass, I thought that was a great collection filled with stories that are all set in the same world. They're kind of thematically linked, but, I thought, I'm done. I have this nice little collection. I'll move on to other things. And I did. But then I just kept having ideas for stories that fit in that world. And that book was done. So I started to just write them as they came. And so that's why some of the stories have already been published before, because I thought, okay, this is the last one I'm going to do in this world. I'll just write it and then I'll send it out. And then a little while later, I was like, I've got this idea, but it would fit perfectly in that pseudo deep American South that's sort of like also Canada and a bit Old North as well. I'm like, it just would fit so well in that world. So I'll just write one more and then I'm done. And then that happened enough that I had half a book's worth of stories. So I thought, well, now I'm halfway through a book. I might as well explore all these other ideas that have been kicking around and fit in that world. And so it took a while.
Do you think you stay there? Do you think you'll go back again for a novel or another collection?
Maybe. I mean, I can never say never. At this stage, I'm admired in another world that has equally captivated me, and this one's a sort of seaside, poor fisherman, pseudo Newfoundland kind of setting.
Yep.
Mermaids and ships and the whole shebang. And so at the moment, I keep going back there. So it's the same thing. I've got about 6 or 7 stories already published in that world, and I've got a handful of story ideas that I'm going to finish that book. But, I feel like I'll probably go back to bluegrass country at some point. But possibly, these two worlds, the bluegrass world and the world of all these seaside stories, I just keep going back to them. I just love them so much. So, yeah, they'll probably be around.
Do you have a favourite story in the collection that you can tell us about? Or one that stands out to you?
So my favorite, oh God, I mean, it's sort of like asking who your favorite kid is, but I'm also a person that has favorites all the time. Ask anybody who has dogs.
And luckily, you only have one kid, so
I know, I have one
Secret.
kid, so she's my favorite. My friends who have dogs, I always pick a favorite, and they're like, how can you do that? I'm like, quite easily, that one's my favorite. So, out of this book, I love a lot of them, but
Later we're going to ask, sorry to interrupt, but we'll ask her who her favourite Word doc is later then, because she will have one.
Well, I can't.
Lisa, don't forget that I've known you the longest.
You launched your book.
I love the first story in the collection, which is called Soft Sister 66. And this is one of the original to the collection ones, so it hasn't come out before, but I just love it. It's a story about a football team that goes missing. There's a flood that drowns all of the farmlands around their, local high school football club, and all these really rough and tumble masculine boys go missing because the sirens have come in with the wash and have lured the men away. And as part of that, consequences ensue that I'm not going to talk about because I want people to read the story, but I love stories about really masculine characters in masculine roles that end up having to break those conventions or, being taken out of those kind of conventions, which is probably why I like Viking Age stuff as well, because it's really like, you have these set rules on how to be a man, and I like to play with how not to be a man in these cases. So in my mind, that's what Soft Sister 66 is all about. I never thought I would ever write anything about a football team, but this is a football team story.
I cannot wait to read this book.
It sounds amazing. So where can people get it? If they're at home thinking, I want it.
At the moment, it's available for pre-order from the publisher. I can give you guys the link for that. It will be available through all online, like Amazon, Kindle and all that sort of stuff for anybody internationally listening to this. But at the moment, Ticonderoga, the publisher, has everything. And they do lovely editions as well. So you can get a limited edition hardcover that's signed. You can get a hardcover that's just a normal hardcover, or a regular paperback for a normal paperback price. So it's lucky that we get these 3 beautiful artifacts out of it as well.
So over the next few days after Sean releases the episode, we'll put all of this on our social media so you can find, I'll do them as separate posts maybe, and you can find Alex's and Lisa's and then Sean's, and we're going to move along to Sean's now. So Sean's book is called Her Perilous Mansion, and if you've been listening, you know that Sean actually has great breadth. He likes to do lots of different genres. So this is another genre really, isn't it? It's very different from Impossible Music, and it's also out the same weekend as Lisa's. It's out on the 28th. So do you want to tell us about Her Perilous Mansion? Both Lisa and Alex are currently reading it, so we're allowed no spoilers. They've given firm instructions.
It's going to be difficult. Her Perilous Mansion is a middle-grade fantasy novel, and it's my first solo middle-grade fantasy novel that isn't set in my usual fantasy world, which is the world of the change, which is very much like Australia, but with magic. So that's where I normally write, unless I'm writing with Garth Nix, and then they're more traditional fantasy. So this is my first on my own in something that's a bit more traditional. So it's set in a 19th century magical world. It came out of a year where I read nothing but Georgette Heyer, and I was really enjoying her.
I love Georgette Heyer. She's so funny.
She's so funny, and her characters are so good, and her sentences are so brilliant. So reading her and being in Ireland, where my wife and I were seeing lots of big stately homes, it sort of combined in the world of this book. But the story of the book came from a dream that I had before I went to Ireland about 2 kids who were trapped in a house and couldn't get out. And that's basically the story of this book. I'll read you the back blurb too. I think that's an excellent idea, Lisa. I'm going to steal that from you. Almanac is an orphaned boy who can't forget. Etta is the youngest of 12 unwanted daughters. Invited to work at a mysterious mansion miles from anywhere, they discover the inhabitants are a little odd. Lady Simone never gets out of bed. Lord Nigel is always locked in his office, and Olive lives in a hidden boiler room and communicates only by code. Etta and Almanac soon realise that the mansion and its residents have secrets they seem reluctant to give up, and there's more at stake than just their jobs. In a world where the line between magic and the written word is often dangerous, can they solve the puzzle of her perilous mansion before it's too late?
Oh.
Ooh.
So I think everyone's already seeing the intersections. There's a lot of darkness happening here.
That's right, people trapped in their houses.
So you wrote the whole thing while you were in Ireland?
I did. I didn't plan to. I was thinking about collaborating it with somebody, but that didn't quite work out because seeing all the houses in all the big stately homes in Ireland, the place started to take shape in my mind, the house. And I thought, well, I could write this now, maybe I'll do it while I'm in Ireland and just sort of flapping about with no deadlines or anything. And I did, and it came out really easily and really smoothly. And then I gave it to my publisher, Allen & Unwin, and they said, oh, great, we love it, we're going to rush it out. So it was a bit of an easy ride, but it was so much fun to write. It was, I can see little flashes of Georgette Heyer all the way through it, and I can see flashes of Garth Nix. The book is dedicated to Garth because he told me to write it, and I always do what Garth says. But he's also the person who got me onto Georgette Heyer as well. And so
what's your favourite? Which one's your favourite Georgette?
Oh, I don't know. The titles, because I downloaded every single book onto my Kindle.
It's like with music. If you've downloaded it, you never remember the album title.
I really like the one where it's the convenient marriage, I think. Something like that, where they just get married for convenience and then fall in love. It's so beautiful and lovely and sweet.
I've only read These Old Shades, and it was so good.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Yeah, I love Friday's Child. It's hilarious.
Yes.
So you guys are reading it. You got questions for Sean?
No, I don't want to know anything. The wonderful thing about this book, and I think the way it hooks you in, is that you have some idea. I've got about 3 working theories at the moment, but what kept me reading it was just going, I don't really know where this is going.
Good.
And every time I think I know, there's something that just kind of throws me off slightly. So it's wonderful in that way because it really is a hook. You just, you get to know these 2 characters, but you're like, I vaguely know the situation, but we're doing Cluedo on crack here. I don't know.
There's a tagline you should be using.
Cluedo on
crack.
Yes,
Only it's for kids,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
maybe not.
One of the inspirations for the book was an absolutely wonderful old novel by Ottfried Preussler called The Satanic Mill, which is based on very old Germanics, a fairy tale about an orphan boy who is invited to come and work at a mill. And eventually he realizes that the miller has made a deal with the devil and is kind of, this isn't a spoiler for the book, but it was a major source of inspiration.
So it's not the devil. It's not the devil in the book.
Not the devil.
Because that'd be great for a middle school audience. And then a last chapter that's just gory as oil. That'd be great.
It's the devil.
And then they were eaten and sucked into the hell
Are you
mouth.
like the only person in the known universe who's crossed Georgette Heyer with, what's his name?
Ottfried Preussler,
What's the name?
The first mashup of its kind.
with a bit of Ireland thrown in as well.
And how long was it, Sean? Because it sounds like you did it very quickly. It sort of just flowed from your brain. How long was it from go to woe, the whole process?
Well, a couple of months to write the text, but I'd been thinking about it for about 6 months before that, and then there were various rewrites. I've had wonderful editors at Allen & Unwin, and they gave me lots of great advice on various things, including changing the female lead's name about 4 times until we got it right.
Oh.
What was her original name?
Her original name was Lynn, short for Rondalyn, but then, because she's the youngest of 12 daughters of a father who always wanted a son.
They're all cruelly named, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're all cruelly named. So she's Etta short for regret.
Oh.
And all the sisters have similar names. And I thought, well, that's a much better idea than Lynn. But it took us a long time to find the right
It's such a good name. Almanac and Regret. I was like, yes, good names, great world. It's sort of like his Dark Materials, but a bit earlier. You know, you get that sense of the grandness of it all, and the magic is just imbued in everything. So, you know, I like world and world building, so that really got me right away.
And you're a writer too, and this is a magic system that revolves around writing.
Yes, magic and words. I love that too. That was the other hook for me, because I think words are a kind of magic, and well, a writer would think that. So, yeah, straight away get into that, definitely.
Excellent.
Are you doing more in this world?
I have a second book set in the world called Honor Among Ghosts that I want to write, but it's not a good time to be writing books at the moment, so I'll just wait and wait for the virus to finish decimating the publishing industry and see how things look next year, maybe.
This is the first year in ages I haven't had a book out. It's a weird year.
Yeah.
Does it feel strange launching your books like this,
Yeah.
like being in your homes and not being able to go out? And
Very strange. We had a party planned, which will happen eventually, and we'll all really lift a glass of champagne. But yeah, it does feel strange, and it feels strange to be releasing it now when everything's still so fraught. But at the same time, people are reading more than ever. So, you know, what better time to release a book?
yeah, I am. I'm buying so many books.
Yeah,
Me too.
My Kindle is getting a workout.
It sort of surprises me in a way that, I mean, I guess it makes sense. The publishing industry is struggling, but I've ordered a bunch of books that are on their way. And for us, what was so disappointing is that we were just about to start rehearsing, and I had seen this group of actors working separately, but we hadn't actually put them together yet. And so I was really looking forward to these characters meeting each other for the first time, or these actors meeting each other in character. But we didn't get to do that. So that was really disappointing. I want to sort of get back to actually having the actors in a room together and actually seeing those characters come alive, especially because one of them's based on my mother. And I was looking forward to, you know, seeing how someone plays Jeanette Vickery Howe.
I think you should do a performance next year, like stage a performance that also includes a kind of panel discussing this whole situation.
that would be
It'd be so
interesting, yeah.
interesting. You could even interview the guy that gave you the information about the disease originally, you know, because everyone who came along would have their experience of this now. Like, it's a very personal thing.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
I think you should write a sequel.
Yes.
Please bring us all back to life. Not as zombies.
Some horrible thing happens. You could have my mother on the panel critiquing the actor who plays her and just going, no.
Jeanette Vickery Howe does not approve.
Exactly. You're nowhere near venomous enough. No, my mother's lovely, but fantastic fodder for fiction, as it turns out.
Do you do this, Lisa? Do you put your family in your stories?
I definitely do. And funnily enough, my mom gets in a lot as well. But people don't really notice. I've had my older sister mention things about details that I've lifted from our house, you know, our childhood home and things like that. But they've pointed out things that they thought were about members of our family, but actually were completely fictional, and then missed the stuff that was really about the family, you know. Yeah. Families are great fodder, especially when you just, you know, there's some sort of little niggle that's been bugging you for years and years. You're like, yes, well, I will write it into this person. You know, it's cathartic.
Do you ever worry about it? Because I had to show Mum a draft. I went, there's no way I can do this. And I thought, this could go either way. And then she rang me and she was really funny. She went, I stand by everything that's in that play. And you know what? You want else, I think? Just went on a little rant.
No, my mom
funny.
has actually not read anything. She's lovely and she'll buy a copy of everything and put it on her shelf. But when Bluegrass came out, it was all exciting because it was my first book. And so she said, I want an autographed copy of the expensive hardcover. And I went, okay. So I sent it to her and I just said, look, you know, my mom doesn't read this type of fiction anyways. She's a big reader, but not of dark, creepy stories. And so I said, look, you'll probably like these ones, but just avoid this one altogether because it's really horrible. And that's the only one she's read. It's a really horrible one.
Now you know the secret.
Yeah, exactly. I just need to point her to the ones and say, don't read my favorite one. It's awful. And see what she says.
Well, thank you for joining us for your book launch, all of you. I'm going to wrap it up because we're running over time. But what I will say to everyone listening is we'll post the links, go get copies, and then we will also post a lovely invitation to the real launches when they finally happen, when we all climb out of our holes and our burrows.
Champagne
And
in
there will be
hand.
champagne, and there will be Moscato, and there will be many copies of the books to buy. So congratulations, Alex, for the 17th. Congratulations, Lisa, for the 27th. And congratulations, Sean, for the 28th.
Yay!
Thanks, Amy.
Well done.
Yay!
Yay!
Yes.
And now we'll see you for our next episode. And we look forward to talking to Lisa again. She's going to be back many times, I hope.
Thank
I
you.
hope so
See ya.
too.
Why don't you write when you don't need money? All your notes sound alike too much. All of them starts with I love you, honey, but they end with the same old touch. Just for a change, send a nice loving letter and cut out that please remittance. Why don't you write when you don't need money, honey? That would certainly make a hit.
I still have no idea why I get that echo. I get a delay in my ear.
Maybe it's your ear.
Did you hear it the whole time the last time?
Yeah.
Oh, so unsettling.
Oh, well, luckily I wasn't saying very much last time.
You will this time.
Now you
All
will.
right.
Yeah.
Do we have to be careful about slurps, Sean, or are we okay with that?
I can possibly edit out the slurps. I've edited out a few of mine.
Okay. I've never attempted to do a podcast and have a cup of coffee before.
This could be a disaster.
You'll just hear screaming like Kramer when I just burned myself.
It's like we've lost Alex.
Oh, no, don't get him laughing because he doesn't stop. Breathe. Do your acting thing. The turn away and turn back. Come on. Now he looks all sensible.
Hi, Jeremy Cordeaux in the Court of Public Opinion. I'm just on air here to let you know that we'll be live streaming the Court of Public Opinion every Friday between 9 o'clock and 12 on jeremycordeaux.com. Please join us. We'd love to have you.